wear glasses or contacts.
Alright, hello everybody. Welcome to this edition of Coffee Time with Byron. This is episode number 47. I am your host, Byron. Alongside me via Zoom is former Minnesota Viking punter, Greg Coleman. We are live via YouTube at Coffee Time with Byron and will be available on all available podcasts the following day. But how are you tonight, Greg Coleman? Thank you for joining us. How you been? And have you been staying safe?
It's good. You know, it's good. It's been a busy time, but it's been a good time. So anytime that you can wake up, it's a good time. So all is well.
So let's just start off. I want to start off with current times, if you don't mind, with the latest that's been going on. Now, I know you played in the 80s, which a lot of this was going on. There was no social media, no nothing. This time now with John Gruden and everything that's going on with the emails being leaked, what's your take on that? Do you think he was a scapegoat? I know I'm not condoning anything he did. I'm not condoning what he said in those emails. But do you think the NFL has used him as a scapegoat to get anybody else that was relating these emails within the organization?
You know, Byron, I can't say that he was being used as a scapegoat. I think the reality of his truth came forth in those emails. You know, it's one thing, and we know that conversations like this have been going on in a lot of cultures, in a lot of organizations. But for him to be comfortable enough to circulate these, and not only to one person, but a number of people via email in the electronic trails that exists today, I think he had to be overly comfortable in sending those, not only one, but over a long period of time, 6, 7, 8 years. So that says something to me in the term you used, scapegoat. I can't say that he was. Now, will the league use this evidence to maybe flush out, address, deal with some of those closed cultures? Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it will.
I have to agree with you on that. It's just how I gotta think though. There's, like I said, I'm not condoning what he said, and he shouldn't have said those. But this all occurred because of the investigation within the Washington football team's harassment. That's how these emails came about. Well, my get is the NFL knows there's corruption somewhere, and why aren't they releasing these videos? You'd think they would, if they're trying to condemn what they were in the past, like hence the terms what you see on the back of their helmets, end racism, all this, escape hate, or whatever they say on the field. Why would the NFL be hiding these emails? What is your take on that? Why do you think they're hiding them if they want the whole thing to come truthful and be a league again, and what they say, instead of being hypocritical about it?
Well, number one, I can't say that they're hiding. I think timing has a lot to do with it. You're in the early parts of a season, and you got to remember that the NFL has so many partners, so many business partners, so many commercials, so much branding, all of those things. So I think they're being strategic, and when they, let's say, when the house of cards start to fall, you can't. They all can't fall at the same time, or the league would crush.
Right.
And I can't sit here and say that there are coaches and officials scrubbing emails right now. I think a lot of people are thinking about how this came about, and wondering to themselves, I mean, is there something out there? I mean, listen, nobody's perfect. We all have fallen short and missed glory, according to the word. But this thing with Gruden, I think, is just the tip of the iceberg. And I do believe that Roger Goodell believes in the cause. I do believe that he has stood shoulder to shoulder with a lot of the players in the movement. But again, Roger works for the owners.
Correct.
So I do believe that there's a lot of conversations that are taking place right now within the NFL, within the ownership and the executive ranks of the National Football League.
Now, last thing on this before we go to something else. Now, do you think, like everybody else has been talking about, all these chains, these ESPN, Fox, CBS, everything isn't talking about it, do you think more will eventually come out? More emails like this will come out and get to who's ever doing these? Do you think they'll eventually come out and they'll get more people?
I think as the information comes out, as the emails start to flow, and those who have been part of those conversations will start to, I'm not going to say be flushed out, but you will start to see who else was in these circles of conversations that were so comfortable enough with, because I'm not going to say that these were backroom conversations, but these were conversations that adult men felt comfortable enough to have. We all know that you live in the laws of first truths, in what you believe and what you stand for. It was very interesting to hear Keyshawn Johnson's take.
Oh yeah, it was.
Having played a couple of years for John Gruden.
Yep.
And what he thought, and the fact that Gruden asked him to come back to be a part of his organization once he was with ESPN, and he said he wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole because, again, this is a very small fraternity and people talk. And a lot of times you get the truth in one-on-one conversations versus a large group setting. And I don't think Keyshawn has any reason to lie, but I do believe that he was shocked to the extent and the degree of the conversations and the adjectives used about certain groups and certain people. We all have a vision and a thought of what we think about a certain person, especially at the top of the food chain in the National Football League. The head coach is one of the most influential people in all of football. He has the ear, the heart, and the mind, of his players. Players have to believe in a coach. They have to believe in the culture. And I think that confidence has been broken. I think the trust has been breached. So I do believe that a lot of players are now, I'm not going to say second guessing, but really, in retrospect, looking a little bit deeper, because a lot of players now are cause driven. They're very, very focused. They can immobilize in a moment's notice. This millennial group, your group, is very, very sharp, very crafty, especially with technology and social media. And all I can say is that I thank God that there was not social media and smartphones back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah.
Or we would be talking about a lot of other situations. But more than anything else, I do believe that some people will have an opportunity to change, to repent, to go a different way. Because a lot of us had different thinking about a lot of different topics, a lot of different subjects, until we are educated about a particular issue. And I guess, one thing that I'll say, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but it really makes Colin Kaepernick, it puts him in the forefront of, although he was talking about law enforcement. Mm-hmm. But regardless of what group you're talking about, if there is an abuse of power, it doesn't matter. And to his credit, he stuck to his laurels. I saw another piece of the fact that a dear friend of mine, Marquette King, who was one of the leading punters in the National Football League, was cut by John Gruden and never even met him. Mm-hmm. Never sat down to have a conversation with him. Mm-hmm. And I can't say what kind of nasty was put out on Marquette, but this kid was one of the leading punters in the National Football League. Not only the NFL, went to the XFL. And said, Greg, should I go to the XFL to prove that I can still kick? Mm-hmm. I encouraged him to do it because he needed to show that he could still kick. This kid can still kick.
Right.
So I don't know what kind of dirty was put out on Marquette King. But I think now people will have to look at that and second guess whatever the information that was put out, because of the mindset, because of the attitude, because of the language that was used to talk about certain groups of people.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I agree with you, and it's just sad that this had to happen, but it's unfortunate in this sad day and time. That's what's... You can't control stupid, and this just happened to be stupid. Just happened to be that.
Well, a lot of things, I think the March on Selma would not have gotten the attention and the exposure that it did had not a CBS camera had been on that bridge. A reporter, I can't remember his name, but having the opportunity to go to Selma for the 50th anniversary of the March on Selma and walking across that bridge and just imagining groups of people being brutalized with batons, dogs, and water hoses. Mm-hmm. But yet, had it not been for the camera that exposed the country to what was really going on, that a lot of people were not telling lies on law enforcement. A lot of people were not telling lies on certain groups of certain hate groups and all of those things. So again, I mean, you could take the Rodney King video. What that brought to light. The George Floyd incident, right here in Minneapolis. So many things come to light when it's exposed. And there's an old saying that we used to have down south is, when you turn a light on, the roaches scatter. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of roaches scattering right now.
I agree. It is true. And like you said, a lot more is going to come out. You just don't know when, don't know how yet, but it will. And when it is, it's going to take down a lot of people. A lot. Gruden was just the first because he got caught. But it's going to happen where more and more are going to get caught, and they're going to get what Gruden got. So that's enough on that. Let's get on to the beginning of your career. You went to Florida A&M. You got drafted in 76 draft. You were in round 14, pick 398. Tell us about that. Where were you? Who called you? And how did you know you were being drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals, but it looked like you never got a chance to play with them? How did that come about?
Let me back up and bring you up to speed. There's more to that story than the draft. In high school, down in Jacksonville, Florida, went to Rains High School. A very, very dominant athletic program with the likes of Harold Carmichael, Kenny Burroughs, Brian Dawkins, the Gaffney brothers, Derek Jabbar, Lito Shepard, Sean Jefferson Sr. and Jr., Leonard Truck Robinson, Vince Coleman playing baseball. There were
Hall of Famers.
My count is maybe 76 men that have finished from that high school that had gone on to put on an NFL, Major League Baseball, or NBA uniform. So my senior year, we were 10-0, and my quarterback, Don Gaffney, happened to be the first African American quarterback at the University of Florida. I mean, we were besties back in that day.
Perfect.
He was a quarterback, I was punter, kicker, and played a little defensive end, and we were going to be a package deal. I said, Cap, wherever you go, I'm going.
Right.
Wherever I go, you go.
Right.
Well, you got to remember, this was 1972, and there were a lot of major schools down in the South who were just being progressive enough. And I had some coaches to tell me, Greg, we have just got our fan base and our alumni to accept the fact that we're going to have a black quarterback. I damn sure can't have a black kicker right now. Because I was a punter and place kicker, one of the tops in the state.
Right.
So I had to shift. I had to adjust. Florida A&M comes in. Coach Bobby Lane comes down and sits at my table. And he says, Miss Coleman, we don't have a whole lot of money to give your son. We can't give him a car. We can't do all of those things that the other schools do. But if he comes to A&M, he can kick, he can punt, he can run track until his heart is content. And if he goes to class, he's going to graduate. And my mom says, where do I sign? And I had an amazing career at Florida A&M. The nurturing that I got, HBCUs are in the forefront of sports right now because of the exposure that's being gained by Deion Sanders and Eddie George and so many other men from the NFL coming back and paying homage, not only to the football programs, but basketball and golf, and all of those things. The partnership that LeBron James has created with Florida A&M. Will Packer, promoter, is doing some amazing things. Will unveil an amphitheater down at Florida A&M doing homecoming. So my journey through Florida A&M was such an amazing time, and the fact that it was more than college. It was family. It was nurturing. It was tutoring. It was mentoring, and all of those things. And had a coach by the name of Pop Kittles. Pop was the wide receiver coach. He was also my special teams coach. And I can remember we were at practice one day, and I'm having one hell of a practice and just thumping him down the middle. And, 50, 60, 70 yards, and Pop says, baby, why are you kicking it right to him? I said, well, hell, Pop, that's where he's standing. He said, well, hell, baby, why are you making him? Why are you doing all the work? Why don't you make him work for his son? I said, well, Pop, what do you mean? He said, well, kick it to the right, make him run. Kick it to the left, make him run. And maybe he'll fumble one of these times. And he said, well, baby, if you do it on a consistent basis, they'll find a place for you at the next level. And I was stupid enough to believe what Pop Kittles told me. And that developed me kicking to the corners. And that talent and ability and that forte, that was my forte, and it kept me in the league because I didn't have the biggest leg. I didn't have the strongest leg.
Right.
I didn't have a Richie Roby leg. I didn't have a Ray Guy leg. But what I did was kick it to the corner. He basically told me, he said, baby, kick it where they ain't. He said, if he's standing in the middle, kick it to the right. If he's standing on the right, hell, kick it to the left. He said, kick it where he ain't. And again, believing that I had the talent and the ability, words that were encouraging from coaches and mentors and teachers at Florida A&M. They prepared me for life after football before I even made it to the pros.
Yeah.
Graduating and then being drafted by Cincinnati in the 14th round. But there were 17 rounds back then, so I was not a big bonus baby. And I made a mistake because I was an All-American hurdler, and had one of the best times in the world back in 1975-76, and I made a mistake in running the 40 in the 4.4, the low 4.4s, high 4.3s, and Paul Brown, it was Mike Brown at that time. He said, you've got too much speed, so we're going to try you at wide receiver. Man, I've never played wide receiver. So I had to go through all of those things. Then when that didn't work out, I'll try you at defensive back. That didn't work out. And so long story short, then I would have to compete after practice with the other punters and kickers who were fresh. Pat McAnally was there. Dave Green was there. They drafted Chris Barr in that same draft in the second round. And I really didn't get a chance to compete against all of those guys. But long story short, I didn't make it. I was cut. I came back to Jacksonville and I taught high school history. But I was prepared because I graduated with a degree. But knowing that I had not given it my best shot, I went back. I got an opportunity because Jake Gaither, one of the winningest college coaches in the history of Florida A&M, had a relationship with a special teams coach in Cleveland by the name of Al Tabor. Al Tabor, who had coached at Southern University, another HBCU institution. And it was Al Tabor who gave me a shot. Forrest Gregg was the coach who gave me a shot at Cleveland. During that same time, the Cleveland Browns drafted Tom Skladany out of Ohio State in the second round. Skladany did not want to punt in Cleveland. And there was this big, negotiations back and forth, this big pissing match. And I was just in camp and I was just kicking the ball. And I remember Forrest Gregg coming to me, and it had gotten to the point. He says, the head coach, Tom Skladany, he said, Coleman, do you think you can do this? I said, Coach, all I need is an opportunity. And he said, well, you're going to be my punter. So Forrest Gregg was a Native American, an indigenous person, who gave an African American opportunity to punt in the National Football League.
Oh, there you go. You got your chance. And you spent the longest time, even though you spent 1 year there with the Browns, you spent your most time, of course, like I see in the background, the Vikings. What was it like playing in Minnesota and kicking in that colder weather? And especially when there was cold weather, how hard was it to kick that ball?
Well, let me tell you, again, you talk about stories. When I was a little shorty, I said the boys in the neighborhood said we would never, ever play in Minnesota because of three reasons. Number one, it was cold as heck. Every time we saw them on television, they were under the frozen tundra of Metropolitan Stadium at Bloomington, Minnesota. And there was smoke coming out of their eyes, their ears, their nose, and everywhere else for smoke to come out of. Well, that was the first reason. Second reason, they had a coach by the name of Bud Gray, who stood on the sideline with pierced blue eyes with his arms folded and didn't say much to anybody. That was reason number two. But the biggest reason that me and my boys didn't want to play for Minnesota, they wore black shoes back in the day. Everybody realizes and everybody knows that all of the cool brothers and all of the elite players in the National Football League were wearing white shoes. Joe Willie Namath, Billy White Shoes Johnson, Elmore Wright. So we weren't going to Minnesota to freeze my behind off to play for a coach that didn't say anything and to wear black shoes. But see, God has a funny sense of humor. After I got cut from Cleveland, I bounced around. I tried out with 3 or 4 other different teams. Nobody wanted to make a decision. And I can remember we were still living in Cleveland. My wife was pregnant. We were expecting our first child. And I remember watching a game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Minnesota Vikings. And neither punter was doing anything. So I was so distraught and I was so pissed that I went to my 9th floor apartment window and I opened the window and I started screaming at God. I said, you lied to me. You said that you would give me the desires of my heart if I did what I was supposed to do. Man, I'm praying. I'm not talking about anybody. I just want to play football. I want to play football so bad that I'll even play for the Minnesota Vikings. And I closed that 9th floor apartment window. The next day, I got a call from the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
And I see, sometimes, you don't tell God what you'll never do, And I spent the next 10 years punting for the Vikings. I had a wonderful career there. But to go back to answer your question, what was it like to punt in cold weather? I didn't really care because I needed a job.
Right.
We were expecting a child, so I should have said, well, Lord, I'll even play for the Los Angeles Rams, and then I'd have been out in California in a warm weather. But I was where I was supposed to be, and it was just an amazing time with some great players, some great teammates. The tail end of the Purple People Eaters, having the opportunity to play 2 years with Fran Tarkenton, the great Chuck Foreman, Jim Marshall, what an amazing man who should be in the Hall of Fame. Carl Eller, Ahmad Rashad, Sammy White, the list goes on and on and on. And, some of the relationships and friendships are still even close today because it was a very close-knit group. And if I had to do it all over again, Byron, I'd do the same thing.
Now, how close did you guys ever get to winning a Super Bowl? Because I know the Super Bowl era was just starting out when you were still playing. How close were you guys ever to getting to that plateau?
Well, I got to Minnesota the year after they went and played the Raiders. So I missed that year. We got to the NFC Championship game a couple of times. So I missed it.
Mm-hmm.
But even with that, it was just a great group of men. I had some great mentors, some great tutors that would just, showed me the path of what it took to be a pro. Calvin Hill was on that team, that Cleveland team I'm talking about, my rookie year. Paul Warfield, the late great Gerald Irons. So many guys who invested in me. So it was an amazing journey. 12 years, I fooled them, and by the time they figured out I wasn't that good, it was, the career was over, but we stayed in the community. My kids grew up in Minnesota, became part of the broadcast team, and have been on the sideline for the last 21 years as a sideline analyst for Vikings Radio Network. I've raised my kids there, raising my grandkids there now. It's just a great community in spite of the George Floyd incident.
Right.
Along with being a part of the radio broadcast. I'm a professional speaker, not so doing some things that I want to do, that I cherish to do, because how you leave your footprint and your fingerprint and your DNA on this world, you have to give something back, and that's what we're choosing to do.
There you go. I couldn't say any better. Now, I'm curious to know this. I see this as well. You were given the nickname Coffin Corner. What is that all about?
Well, Howard Cosell, we played the Dallas Cowboys, I think, on one of the first Thursday night games.
Mm-hmm.
But because of my forte in kicking to the corners, Howard Cosell coined me with that name, Coffin Corner Coleman. And once you get labeled by an icon like Howard Cosell,
yep.
Yeah, it sticks. And I don't know who Coffin was, but my name is Coleman. So it's a Coleman's Corner, and that's what I did for many years, and that's how it stuck. That's how it stuck.
Now I gotta ask you this: you were one of the first African American punters. How did that make you feel, breaking that barrier of being a punter, being like one of the first African Americans?
That wasn't my goal. When I was in high school, how you put in your high school yearbooks, your ambition, what do you want to be? Even as a little shorty, I said that I wanted to be a kicking specialist in the National Football League, and I worked my behind off towards that goal. not realizing and knowing that there weren't many men of color who had put their black foot on a brown football. But there were a few men that came before me who had done that. Marlon Briscoe, Dave Lewis, Dave Mays, so many great men, but no one had specialized in that position. As a punter, they played other positions. And that was one of the things that got me cut in Cincinnati, because Mike Brown wanted me to be a wide receiver. And just like a lot of great quarterbacks from HBCU schools were forced to switch.
That's right, yeah.
I made a decision. You're not going to make me a wide receiver. You're not going to make me a defensive back. And I just worked my behind off and was at the right place at the right time. And thank God for Forrest Gregg, the late great Forrest Gregg, and I thank Bud Grant each and every time I see him for giving me an opportunity. But it was all about preparation. When preparation meets opportunity, it normally equals success. But that's not always the case, because everything in life is not fair. So there were a lot of obstacles that I had to overcome. And again, there were the cat calls. Hey man, what position you play? You got to be a wide receiver, and especially when I run the 40 times that I ran, and guys would laugh and man, you must be crazy. Ain't no black punters in the National Football League. And I had to stick to my laurels. I said, that ain't my problem. And again, once that was accomplished, I was hoping to open doors like Doug Williams and James Shaq Harris did for black quarterbacks, Warren Moon, many, many years ago. But that door has only had a little crack for black punters and kickers. And that has forced my wife and I to do whatever we can. This platform. I was inducted into the 2021 class of the Black College Football Hall of Fame this year.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And I told them that the team is now complete because they have a punter and a kicker. No team is complete without a punter and a place kicker.
Correct.
And I'm going to use this platform and provide a grant for a place kicker and a punter from an HBCU institution to go to some of these kicking camps to hone their craft where they can get exposure.
Right.
Because not to have one player from an HBCU school in the NFL draft last year was a travesty.
That's true.
That should never happen.
No, you're right.
And I'm going to do whatever I can to shine a light in a dark place for African American punters and place kickers in the National Football League.
Yeah, because like you said, I watched the draft, and yeah, I saw nobody from those kind of schools get drafted at all. It was the major colleges. Like, I can't say in the deeper rounds I didn't watch, but I at least watched the first 4 rounds, and that was disappointing.
Disappointing. Hell, Byron, it was a slap in the face.
Yeah.
It was a slap in the face to all those coaches, all of those men,
that's what I was
and
say,
their parents, who had given their all. Now you come to Tallahassee, you scout Florida State, which is right across the street from Florida A&M, less than a mile. You mean to tell me? I mean, the kid who's leading sacks in the country right now is a young man from Florida A&M University. So you telling me that there's no talent at HBCU schools? See, now you done hit a nerve, man. You done ticked me off now. But that never should happen.
No, I agree.
Never should happen.
I agree, because you're right. There's talent everywhere. Seriously, there is.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know what the problem is with the NFL. I know, like we talked about earlier, they're trying to fix it, but it's still not fixed.
Well, again, based on that happening a year or so ago, based on some of the backroom conversations, can you only imagine what they would have been like?
Yeah.
I rest my case.
Exactly, you're right. So, let's go on to a little bit more about your career. What do you remember most? Is there a game that stands out to you the most that you remember, or is there couple other games that symbolize what your career was as a punter?
Well, I do remember my first game punting with the Minnesota Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
Once I got here, every afternoon after practice, Bud Grant would go in. So he never watched me practice. You know, there were special teams coaches and kicking coaches that would stay out. But, Wednesday he would go in. Thursday he would go in. So by Friday, I'm saying, you know what, I got to do something. I've got to create an opportunity. Reminding me of the words of Pop Kittles. So the team was practicing at one end of the field, and I put a garbage can on the goal line, and one on the 5 and one on the 10. Took a bag of balls and put I think 2 in on the goal line, one on the 5 and one on the 10. And by that time, some of the guys had stopped and they noticed and made some interesting remarks that I cannot say because it's a family show right now. But it caught notice.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember after practice, somebody saying, "Hey man, can you do that whenever you want?" Can you do that whenever you want? I said, "Man, all I need is an opportunity." Coaches went in, so I'm thinking, all right, here we go again. But I show up to practice on Saturday, and Bud comes up and says, "Well, you need to go and negotiate a contract over with Mike Lynn because you're punting tomorrow against the Green Bay Packers."
Mm-hmm.
So my first game was the Packers. It was the 8th game of the season, right around the time that it is right about now. And had a fairly decent game. I think I averaged 43, 44 yards a clip. And, we were up by 2, and I think it was 4th and 11, and somebody said, "Hey, do anything but don't get it blocked." That's the worst thing you can say to a punter. You just leave them alone.
That's true.
So I wanted to make sure that I didn't get it blocked, so I looked up cardinal rule, cardinal mistake, and I take off around the right sideline. Thought I had the first down, come up short. And I'm saying, God, Lee Moses, you get all kind of things going through your head. You just got here. You had a decent game, and now you're going to be on the next plane back to wherever.
Mm-hmm.
But I had some of those members of the Purple People Eaters, led by Carl Eller, Jim Marshall, and Matt Blair, and Bobby Bryant, and some of those guys says, "Hey, man, we had nobody around here with those kind of kahunas that's going to run on 4th down, but we got your back." And we stopped Green Bay, and we won the game by 2 points. And Bud asked me what happened. He said, "Well, he said, don't do anything, but don't get it blocked." I said, "I didn't get it blocked." So he said, he looked at me, he said, "Well, the next time you run around here, you damn sure better make it, okay?" And I felt like I finally belonged, to an organization, to a team, guys that accepted me for who I was and my ability. And I would have to say that first game in Minnesota set the tone, set the scale. That is a memorable one. There were so many great games with great teammates, and I would be doing them a disservice by identifying one particular game, but I do remember one of those games between the Cleveland Browns, the team that cut me. Mm-hmm. Sam Rutigliano was the coach. Mm-hmm. And we beat Cleveland in the Miracle at the Met, is what we call it. We were behind in the 4th quarter, but, had this amazing comeback in the last play. 4 seconds left. Tommy Kramer goes back. Terry LeCount, Ahmad Rashad, and Terry LeCount. And I'll finish the story. But I'm going to tell you how strong of a bond we had here in Jacksonville. Terry LeCount and I grew up on the same north side of Jacksonville, played Pee-wee football and baseball together, went to the same high school. He went to the University of Florida. Terry was the second African-American quarterback at the University of Florida. I went to Florida A&M. Fast forward, Terry LeCount was my roommate and teammate from the same neighborhood, the same Pee-wee football team. And Terry LeCount was a part of the Miracle at the Net. It was Terry LeCount, Sammy White, and Ahmad Rashad. The ball was tipped around. Ahmad Rashad makes a one-handed catch. backs into the end zone, and we beat the Cleveland Browns to win the division to get into the playoffs. So, again, there were so many great games, man, so many memorable ones that we had.
Now, I see your longest punt, I believe it says here, is, hold on, give me 1 second here, I have it pulled up. Your longest,
it's 73
yards.
It's 73 against the then Baltimore Colts.
Yep, that's what I was going to ask you. Yep.
Playing at Old Met Stadium, and it was all in the air. There was no roll and bounce and all of that stuff. But because Baltimore had a pretty good punter at that time, a kid by the name of Ron Stark, who went to Florida State, a lefty. So I was across the street at FAMU. So I wanted to outdo him. And if you get a player or a coach that says that revenge is not a motivator, he's lying through his teeth.
Yeah, I know that one. Yep. Yeah. So how was it? Did you have was there wind that day? Did you just feel the strength in your foot? What was it? How did it come about?
It was just like hitting a sweet 7-iron. That 175 yards. You hit it in the sweet spot, and you don't feel a thing. And, those are the best punts, the ones that you never feel. And it was just a great punt. And we had great protection, great coverage. And, that was the name of that tune.
Now, I got to ask this. Unfortunately, I haven't seen much, but there isn't... I don't know why. I mean, you guys are an important part of the game, just like kickers that do the field goals. But I don't see many of you guys in the Hall of Fame.
There's only one. There's only one.
Why is that? And do you think you will ever get into the Hall of Fame?
Well, I am in the Hall of Fame. I'm in the Black College Football Hall of Fame. So Hall of Fame is Hall of Fame. I'm in the Florida A&M Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame.
There you go.
But I get it. I understand what you're saying. But again, punters and kickers are not looked on or is viewed as important parts of the game until lately. Jan Stenerud and Morton Anderson are the only two place kickers in the National Football League, Pro Football Hall of Fame. Ray Guy, who we call, who was one of my contemporaries who I competed against, but out of all due respect, he is the only punter in the National Football League. And I tell you what we did when Ray went in the Hall of Fame. I think it was 5 or 6 years ago. With all due respect, I was sitting down with Brian Barker, who punted for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We had a golf tournament, and I said, "Hey, man, when Ray goes in, we should go up and support him." So we got a Hall of Fame golf shirt, put the number 8 on it, and there were about 10 or 11 of us that went up out of respect and had a round table with all punters when Ray Guy went in. Because we're a small fraternity.
That is true.
I still got that shirt because I wore number 8 as well. So, I walk around with my Hall of Fame shirt, number 8. They say, "You're in the Hall of Fame?" I said, "Not yet, but I can say that I am now."
So, do you think there'll be, in this day and age though, do you think there'll be more punters and kickers since those two got in, since they broke the barrier?
I would hope so, because now, especially this year, how many games have been won and lost just in this first quarter of the season?
Good point.
By punters and place kickers. The NFL record for the longest field goal has been done this year by the kid at Baltimore. So more and more punters and kickers are getting notoriety, because Bud Grant would always say that your special teams, your punters and kickers, at least 3 games during the season. And if you got a good one, you better hang on to it.
I agree with that. So I agree, and I think, honestly, that would be a step up, because I think guys like, even though Vinatieri's still playing, I know he'll be in for sure. Matt Bryant, who was another good one, he'll be in.
Yep. Well, you got Gary Anderson.
Yeah, Gary Anderson.
Who punted for Pittsburgh and finished his career with Minnesota. So there are a number of place kickers that are warranted. And sometimes politics has a little bit to do with it as well. So I don't play politics well, so if it happens, great. But this experience that I had this year of being inducted with the 2021 class in the Black College Football Hall of Fame has been just amazing. Having my family with me in Atlanta, my kids, my grandkids, then going to Canton, where we were treated like royalty by David Baker of Pro Football Hall of Fame, unveiling the plaques of those men in that Black College Football Hall of Fame. I mean, it was just an amazing experience that we had in Canton, and then having my ring presented to me at Florida A&M, the place where I went to college, where I went to school,
where it all started.
And and I got to tell you, my feet have not touched the ground, and it has been a great experience, and I can't thank Florida A&M enough, the coaches, staff, the administration, for reaching out and doing what they did for me a couple of weeks ago. So this last several months has just been incredible. Not to mention that I had a new little granddaughter born a couple of weeks ago.
Congratulations! You told me.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Nothing like holding that baby, right?
I'm telling you. Yes, it is.
I know.
So God has been good. The good Lord has been good to me. An incredible wife and family, and just a great network of people. So I'm very, 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 very grateful. But it was also, Byron, a time that humbles you, because now you're forced to think about every Little League coach, every teacher in high school and Pee Wee, in college, who had a hand, foot, or an encouraging word to help you along your way. So I can't thank my college coaches, Rudy Hubbard, and got a chance to see Coach Hubbard and Coach Bobby Lang, who was also my track coach there, and the late great Pop Kittles, and just so many people who had a hand in my incredible journey.
Now, let's bring you to the current, since you're currently a broadcaster with the Minnesota Vikings. What do the Vikings need to do to get to the plateau? There's a lot of stacked teams in the NFC. What do you think they have to do to compete with those teams? Where do you think they're at right now?
Well, we lost several games that we shouldn't have. And I say the great teams find a way to win those close games. You develop habits. And habits can be positive or habits can be negative. And it depends on the habits that you develop as a team. It depends on the culture in that locker room. It depends on the leaders and all of those things. Very, very close. A couple of games that we shouldn't have lost. But the good teams, the great teams, they find a way to win. So number one, you got to change the mindset in that locker room. You got to develop the winning habits. You know, some people call it chemistry. I don't care what you call it, but you got to have a shark mindset, because a shark, you know, it constantly swims. If it stops swimming, it's going to die. You know, so you're going to have to be able to adjust, adapt, and execute to a new game plan if things are not working. Adjustments are the key in the National Football League, and if you're not able to make the adjustments on the fly, you'll find yourself saying, man, we should have won that. So that's the difference between the good teams and the great teams.
Now, what about your quarterback, Kirk Cousins? A lot of people are saying he's not it. You guys shouldn't have paid him that money. What's your take? Do you think he can get you guys to that plateau, to playoffs?
If you look at the numbers, Kirk has done what we have asked him to do. He can't block. He can't kick. He can't defend. He's doing what he's supposed to do. And a lot of times when you get that stigma, when you get that nasty put on you in the national media, it's hard to get it off. He has done what we've asked him to do. I don't fault anybody. This is a free market. And he was in the right place at the right time, and the market determined that the going salary for a free agent quarterback back then was $84 million, and he was in the right place to get that guarantee. Right. Don't blame him at all.
I don't blame him either. Yeah.
You know, money is nothing but a byproduct of services rendered. If you have a service or product and the market is willing to pay it, by all means, get it.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
Whoever thought that punters would now be making over $1 million?
Right. Exactly. Okay. Yep.
So you know, I would say, being tongue in cheek, that I was born a little bit too soon, but no, I don't think so. I was born at the right place at the right time. But I think Kirk is doing a great job. If you look at his numbers, he's in the top 5 in terms of percentages and all of those things. Didn't have a turnover. I think over 211 passes before he had a interception. So he's doing what he's paid to do. But it takes an entire team. It's more than a quarterback. I know the quarterback is supposed to be the straw that stirs the drink, but I think along with the quarterback, I think Dalvin Cook is really the straw. If Cookie is healthy, and
exactly. That's the thing. If he can, if he can stay healthy.
Absolutely. So I think we've got to win division games. You ask what it's going to take, and you win your division games. You get to the playoffs. Anything can happen. But that's first and foremost. You got to win your division games. And last week against Detroit, we were fortunate enough that Greg Joseph hit a 55-yard field goal with time running out to beat the Detroit Lions. People will say, well, hell, Detroit is 0-4. Well, those are professional players.
They are, yes. I agree. I don't buy anybody that those players. Those players, Campbell's got them playing their guts out. That's what you want in a coach. That's what you want.
Absolutely.
So I don't care what anybody says. They will win games eventually.
Yep, for sure.
They're going to be a scary team eventually, especially with Jared Goff. I don't care what anybody says. He's still a good quarterback.
Well, he wasn't he the MVP of the league or close?
Close to it, yeah.
A couple of years ago
with the Rams, yeah.
You don't lose that ability overnight just because you change a jersey. Yeah. They put some talent around him, protect him a little bit more. He's going to be all right. I
agree. So, you were there, since you said you've been with the broadcast team for about 20-something years now. Yes. You were there for that Minneapolis Miracle against the Saints. How was that, being live right there, and witnessing that? Because that was awesome. I saw it here, of course, on TV as I could, because I wasn't there. But how was it seeing that live and witnessing that right in front of your very own eyes?
Well, Byron, as a player, you always believe. As a player, you always have hope, because hope is the gasoline that fuels your faith. And without hope, you have nothing. Without faith, you have nothing. Without belief in your teammates, you have absolutely nothing. Case Keenum goes in that huddle with 4 seconds left. And he looks around. He says, "Guys, I'm gonna give somebody an opportunity to do something great." Because in our chapel the night before, we talked about greatness. Mm-hmm. Opportunity to do something great. And will you give God glory? And we found ourselves down by some points. The Saints thought they had it all wrapped up, and Sean Payton was over doing the Skull chat.
Yep.
And he looked at every man and said, "Hey, man, if you just do your job, if everybody does their job, we'll have an opportunity to do something great." He backs up, the line protects, the backs do what they're supposed to do. Receivers run the routes. Diggsy, runs a post corner. And, literally standing right in front of me, he goes up and makes a catch. And if you surface that, go back and look, I had on a purple and white shirt, a purple tie, and I'm standing right in front of him. He puts his hand in the ground and he spins around. And I pointed, because a lot of times when you put your hand in the ground and spin around, you're disoriented. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want him to get up and start running the wrong way. And people said, "Well, what do you mean?" Well, Jim Marshall, one of my former teammates, is noted for picking up a ball, a fumble, because he put his hand on the ground and running the wrong way Marshall. So I wanted Diggsy to go the right way. The emotion at US Bank Stadium was incredible. I thought the ceiling was going to fall. Because it was a hard-fought game, and something good finally happened to the Minnesota Vikings. And it was just an awesome part to experience that and witness that, and having the opportunity to interview Diggsy right after that happened on the field, raw emotion. He's crying like a baby, searching for words. And it was just a very, very special time, and one of the highlights of my broadcast career. So I would say that was very, very special.
Now, obviously, you had to hear your colleagues too in the background while they were calling it. What was their reaction? What they say?
Well, listen, Paul Allen and Pete Bursidge. Paul Allen is our play-by-play. Pete Bursidge, former linebacker, former coach for the Vikings. They were about to lose their ever-loving mind. And, I had to wait until they finished screaming and shouting and, no way! And, Paul Allen, before the play, said, we need a miracle. We need a Minneapolis miracle. So he actually coined the phrase prior to the play.
Right.
And it was just bedlam. It was just bedlam.
I bet that had to be by far your top moment in your broadcasting career. I know you've had many between the Dante Culpepper, Randy Moss, that kind of era. But one other. It doesn't top that, but. And I'll close on this because I know we're getting close to the bewitching hour. But we were playing in Green Bay, and it was one of those cold nights, and we go into overtime, and Chris Walsh was a wide receiver, kickoff return guy, punt return guy. Mm-hmm. Caught a ball and gave himself up because we were, wanting to keep the time on the clock. Well. And it was close to our bench, and one of the guys from Green Bay goes over and just smashes Chris upside the head, and all hell breaks loose. Both benches empty. I don't know how I found myself in the middle of it. I've got my microphone. My broadcast partner, Paul Allen, asked me, Greg, you're down in the middle of that. What is going on? I say, Paul, I don't know, but all hell is breaking loose down here. So, you have funny moments like that. I actually think I remember that game. I think I remember that game because I believe Joe Buck and Troy Aikman were calling that game.
I think you could be right, but it was, again, in the end, all you have are those significant moments and significant memories that you can take with you with people that you've developed relationships with, and I have been fortunate enough to develop relationships with men. And women over generations, and I just thank God for this opportunity.
Yeah, I got you. I agree with you that you can. I mean, not only were you an awesome player and you developed a friendship with a lot of great players when you played, you also developed a lot of good friendships with the players that you had your chance to broadcast too. Like the three guys I just mentioned: Dante Culpepper, Chris Carter, Randy Moss. To the guys of today, Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Stephon Diggs before he went on to a better team, right? Because you've had tons of good relationships. I mean, it's awesome. It's just awesome that you've been able to be a part of that.
It really is, and again, it's nothing that I have done, but my parents taught me to treat people how you want to be treated.
Right.
And am I a perfect human being? I am far from it.
Right.
But I just try to do the best that I can do. And when my dad left me with three phrases. He said, "Son, if you remember to say thank you, how can I help you, and please, you go a long way in life."
So before we end this interview, I see in the background you got a Wheaties box of yourself. How did that come about?
Well, that was through a philanthropic effort that my wife and I, for the last 22 years, we've had the Greg Coleman Celebrity Golf Tournament, benefiting young people in the Twin Cities area. And I guess that was one of the thank yous from the community.
There you go. There you go.
For the work that we've done. So we just had our 22nd annual golf tournament. We've got some great partners in the Twin Cities area, and it's just been a wonderful labor of love. Our partnership with the YMCA, they are the benefactor of our mentoring and tutoring and sports programs. Because all of our kids are not going to hell in a handbasket. You know,
right.
We've got some great young people that are doing some amazing things.
Right.
They just need a little help, and we're doing whatever we can to help them along.
There you go. Couldn't say better. And one final question before we head off is summarize your career in one word. How would you describe your career?
Blessed.
Couldn't have said it any better. I agree with you.
Totally blessed.
But I do appreciate your time. It was fun. My son enjoyed your birthday videos. I appreciate you again for that. Congratulations again on the new granddaughter and being elected into the College Hall of Fame and the African American Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Thanks, Byron.
No problem. I'd love to have you on again as many times as you wish. I got your contact info, so it was fun. I enjoyed it. I hope you did as well.
All right.
And
you got it. You take care of yourself, man, and take care of Roman, man. Before you know it,
I will.
You know, he'll be up asking for the keys for the car.
Oh, I know. That's a scary thought. I know. But I'll stay in touch with you. I'll text you after the show. This is over. I'll send you a copy.
Okay.
And yeah, it was fun. You enjoy yourself good, and you have a good night.
All right, man. You too. Take care.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Greg Coleman, everybody. This concludes episode number 47, and be looking forward to episode number 48 tomorrow night. We have former NHL referee